In a way, Uncultured Universe is like a big ship. And when we work together and respect each other and don't both speak at the same time because our audio format can't really handle
It
that at
can't.
this
It can't
point,
do it. It can't.
that's when the ship gets safely home.
That's when the shit
That
gets safely home, Joe. Yes.
ship. I'm saying ship. God damn it.
I don't know.
Hello, everyone. This is Uncultured Universe. I'm your host, Joe. I'm here as always with my co host, Justin. And today we're talking about a seminal movie for me personally. It's the 2000 Sandra Bullock action comedy film, Miss Congeniality. Justin, how
Yeah.
are you?
I'm well. I'm looking forward to talking about this one because I feel like some of the most recent flicks we've done for each other quite haven't hit as well. Um,
We're in our bumpy phase, yeah.
it's a little bumpy, that's all right. Super
Is
Troopers
this
wasn't quite the it for you.
neither
Um,
was Superstar for you?
right. So, yeah, it's good to get back into a thing where I appreciate, or we can all kind of appreciate the shared comedy and the performances and that kind of a stuff. It doesn't feel that old, even though this movie is 24 years old.
Oh
Um,
God, wow.
but like this was a good time. This was a good pick. This was a solid pick, Joe.
It's fairly hard to have a bad time watching Miss Congeniality. Critics at the time may have been mixed and may have disagreed with you, but I think so much of this movie has become just embedded in pop culture that my first question right off the bat is like, how much of this did you know about through just like quotes and like memes from this movie? What did you know about Miss Congeniality going into it?
Meme wise, I can't. None really come to mind. Other than like vaguely like the like what's your perfect date kind of a thing, but just like
Uh huh.
barely on the outskirts of my brain for that. This is one of those weird movies where we kind of talked about like if you did see it, 20 something years ago when it came out, but like maybe you didn't finish it or like
You've quote unquote seen it.
this is one of those movies for me. Like, I'm pretty sure I saw this like freshman year of high school, but like I couldn't remember a lick of this movie. When watching it, I was like, okay, I think I kind of remember the plot, or I can kind of infer what the plot is going to be. And I'm like, okay, that's the bad guy, or like that's the, antagonist. Oh, no, I was wrong. Maybe, okay, it was that. Okay, all right, I see what's happening here. So this is one of those of like, I have seen it swish, swish, swish. But
You've
it
seen
is.
it, but you haven't really watched it, or reverse
Yes,
that. You
I
know,
did not
you've
experience it.
you've seen it, but you haven't like thought about it.
I haven't lived it. Yeah,
Yeah, you haven't lived it.
yeah.
This is me telling you need to enter a beauty pageant.
Joe, this may surprise you.
Please tell
I,
me you have.
I haven't, but wouldn't that have been awesome? Um, I don't know if I have the. I don't know. I'm pretty comfortable in front of a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Um, maybe due in part to this, due in part to like the nature of the work that I do or the work that we've done together, that kind of stuff.
You've got your
Um,
little. You've got your presenter showmanship. Yeah, you can do all that.
yeah, so I could, but I don't know if like the competition aspect might get to me. I might want to you know hurt somebody.
Oh, so you get too competitive during a beauty pageant.
I think I might. I think I could.
So you're leaning a little bit out of Miss Congeniality and more into Drop Dead Gorgeous, where it's more
mm,
like there's a murderer on the loose.
and it's me, everybody. Better watch out. Um, yeah. So yeah, this is one of those weird movies of just like it the frames passed through my like over my eyes, the 30 frames per second in front of a TV, but I didn't fully ingest the message or the any of the memorable performances like a dumb 13-year-old would.
Well, you were just too busy, kissing people.
I was wearing, cargo cutoff shorts and trying to be a punk kid in freshman year of high school.
Fantastic. Well, how did you like it this time around? How did it go in the Jackson household?
There were LOL moments. There were, clapping moments. There were like, "Hey, that's dated. Hey, get your hands off of her, mister." Um, the misogyny is rampant. It's, uh, it's
It
gross
really
at some
is.
points.
It's a 2000s take on beauty pageant culture.
It really is.
Um,
It's a scathing look at it for real, but, no, I think the big part of this movie is its performances, which we can talk about later, but I think that's one of the main standouts is, everybody is, hilarious or playing the aloof straight guy
mhm.
or, you know, even though it is an action comedy, it's a little light on the action for me, to call it that, but it was still entertaining and kept me guessing till the end, even though I've seen it before.
So, listeners, if you're wondering, we are talking about Miss Congeniality. So this rounds off our what we're calling, where did we land? Crime Corner
Crime Corner.
miniseries
Yeah, yeah.
for July, where we are talking about, I guess, like law enforcement of a sort, but
Yeah,
mainly like more on the crime side of things.
sure.
And we both happen to land on crime comedy
Mm.
in our picks. So Justin earlier this month picked Super Troopers for us to watch, and then I, of course, had to follow up with Miss Congeniality.
Had to. You had to.
It's been on my list for a while. There's movies in my wheelhouse that I just know I eventually need to cover on this podcast. This is a movie where, when I think of it, I weirdly think of it in the pantheon of movies that I would watch, like when we went to visit my cousins.
Mm.
So I have a million cousins, and there would be movies like this. Fifth Element was a big one,
Ooh, yeah.
and what else? The Mummy. These were just movies that were just kind of like in that lane. I guess they're all a little action comedy where it's just like we're all down in the basement at my cousin's house watching these on VHS.
Yeah.
It would be the my six brothers and sisters and I crowding into a van to go up to their house. We didn't really
Jesus.
have like major cable at our house, so
Yeah.
it was always a big deal that we could watch TV at their house. And this was kind of like in between channels, like let's throw on something like Miss Congeniality for the whole family to enjoy. And the quotes from a movie like this kind of became language that we spoke as a family. So the
Examples, please.
like in a way, America is like a big ship, and when we work together and respect each other, that's when the ship gets safely home.
Is that
And
like a parable or something that like your parents would say as you guys are all trying to put the dishes away
no,
together?
we're just saying this random shit to each other. And if anyone tries to hurt one of my new friends, I would take them out. I would
Yeah.
make them suffer so much they would wish they were never born. And
Oh,
if they
that's funny.
ran, I would hunt them down. Like I could probably just recite this entire movie based off of like internal lexicon at this point. It's one of those things
Right.
where like I'll text a line from this movie randomly to one of like my sisters just to like be funny, and they'll immediately know what mood I'm in.
Of course. Yeah. Did you do that this past go round?
Yeah.
Of
I,
course
I,
you
I
did.
shot him a picture of like Sandra Bullock doing one of like her incredible pratfalls in this movie up on stage.
There's so
Uh, I,
many.
I I love how like physically comedic she is in this movie. The Miss Congeniality kind of falls into an area of her career where I'm thinking like Sandra Bullock moving into comedy. So
Mhm.
we have covered old Sandy
Sandy.
just one time before on this podcast because we did Speed.
We did
Is
Speed.
that the only
Yeah.
time?
Yes.
Um, so that's more mid 90s. That's her starting out. And she's in this action movie, definitely heavier on the action, but with comedic elements. And
Hmm.
then she has movies like While You Were Sleeping and Practical Magic, where she's kind of like carving out a niche for her in these more genre movies. again, where she has these like comedic elements because she starts off low key, but she can do some stuff with her face that just like contorts it
Oh
in
man,
crazy ways. She's a funny gal, and
she's a
this is kind of like
hilarious.
this is an apex point for her in
Mm-hmm.
my experience with her.
Sure, for sure. Like that is one of the notes that I have is just like all the faces that she makes are killer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like it's kind of like breaking the fourth wall-y. It's kind of like the Office kind of style, like faces of just like "Merp," kind of a face, that like dorky people would make to themselves. And it's so fun to see her like embody this like fish out of water, real person kind of a thing in this highly, upper echelon, snooty kind of place. And she
Mm-hmm.
kills it. She kills it.
Yeah, it really does continue the trend that we have of like makeover montages in movies, which we love. Going all the way back to Devil Wears Prada, you have this like somewhat I'm not going to say like straight lace, but maybe like tomboyish person who doesn't really care so much about their appearance, and
Yeah.
then for better or for worse, them putting on makeup and a dress and having like a walk to end all walks just becomes iconic moments in cinema, at least in my mind.
Yeah, incredibly like iconic shot from the trailer, the her emerging from the airplane hangar,
Gosh, she
just
looks good.
looking stunning. And then of course Benjamin Bratt just looking equally dumbfounded.
Okay,
Is such a good
we're we're gonna need to have a Brat corner. Hashtag Brat Summer.
it's Bratt summer, baby.
Benjamin Bratt looks really good in this movie. I will
He
just say
looks fucking fine, dude. And I have forgotten all about Benjamin Bratt.
the children have forgotten about Benjamin Bratt. Was he on like a Law and Order or something? Where was he in like the
Yeah.
90s, 2000s?
I think he was. I think post this, I think post Miss Congeniality, he did, like 15 plus seasons or whatever on an SVU or one of those other cop shows that your
God,
grandparents love to watch, kind of a thing.
him and Chris McDonald. Speaking of movies that we have covered, Three Musketeers. Just
Chris
fucking off in the
O'Donnell?
tooth. Chris O'Donnell. Chris O'Donnell. Sorry, not Chris McDonald.
It's like, who's Chris
Um,
McDonald?
fucking off to like procedural TV shows and just making bank during the 2000s. Good for them.
You're just chilling. Yeah.
Let me give you some stats and then let's jump into the plot description early, just because this movie is a little plotty and I want people to know what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so we're talking Miss Congeniality. It is a 2000 action comedy film. The title refers to a what do we call this? Like a secondary award given at beauty pageants that's for like the cool girl, I guess, like the popular one that didn't necessarily win, but they can choose who to give Miss Congeniality to.
Yeah. It's kind of like
Um,
superlatives, right?
yeah,
From like high school kind of a thing, like
I,
best dressed, but like this is a highly coveted second place kind of award.
I haven't done the research to determine like is this an actual award that happens with like every beauty pageant? Because like it'd be weird to just come up with the term Miss Congeniality and like release that upon the public in the year 2000 if no one had ever thought of it before. Like surely this is an award that exists.
I would imagine so. I mean, but it's such a like an SAT word, congenial, and like it's so just like instead of just like Miss Friendly, it
It's
it
just
has some pomp and circumstance to it. My only connection to the term and maybe to the movie itself, I don't know if this is what RuPaul is referencing, but RuPaul's Drag Race, and I don't
mhm,
know if they've done it for every season. Um, but oh yeah, originating from the first season, there's always a prize or like a title given at the end, and it's usually voted on, I think, by the contestants themselves. They all vote on who gets to be Miss Congeniality of the
mhm.
entire season, and it's awarded to the kindest, the friendliest, most helpful, uh, queen of the season, kind of a thing. And it's usually, you can kind of identify early on. It's like, oh, this person's been extremely helpful. They're not like vindictive. They're not playing the, like cut a bitch card or anything like that. They're like genuine, good-hearted people win the miscongeniality crown, which is pretty cool.
And given this movie's place in culture, but also like queer culture in particular, I could see that award on RuPaul's Drag Race being just as much about like the word congeniality as it is about like, oh, you get the Sandra Bullock award from Miss Congeniality, you know?
Pretty much.
Like we are spiritually giving you this vibe right now.
Yeah, 100%.
Miss Congeniality, directed by Donald Petrie, starring a young Miss Sandy Bullock, Michael Caine, Benjamin Bratt, Candice Bergen, William Shatner, Ernie Hudson, and Heather Burns. This movie had a budget of $45 million, came out in December 2000, and made $212 worldwide. So not bad.
Damn.
Kind of a big fat hit.
Yeah, for sure. What a cast, by the way. Like,
yeah,
hit after hit, like hot modern people. And then you get like Hollywood mainstays, and everyone's playing like at the same level, which is awesome.
You get Sandra Bullock and you get Benjamin Bratt as kind of like the central folks in this movie, but then Michael Caine, the 1-2-3 punch of Michael Caine, Candice Bergen, and William Shatner kind of rounding off that inner circle really elevates it. And then you have such a fun supporting cast between like the FBI crew and the pageant contestants. And you're constantly kind of like, for most of the movie, you're kind of alternating between those worlds. And the different ways that they kind of build on each other. And there's like different like relationships in there that are touched on in addition to just like the regular part of the movie.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's, like maybe like well-trained, classically trained actors, a little more battle tested, that kind of a stuff, but playing these really heightened characters. I'm talking, Michael Caine and William Shatner and Candice Bergen, like just out here, like you said, just kind of like orbiting, kind of like being the proton or whatever of this atomic masterpiece that this movie is.
The electron,
but the electrons are the weird. Follow me on this. The electrons are the tertiary characters. The Miss Massachusetts. Who's her friend? I can't remember who her friend is.
Rhode Island, Cheryl, Rhode Island.
So
the inner circle of them, which is essentially like their friend group at the table, is
conveniently also make top 10.
Yeah, I love it. Sandra Bullock is New Jersey. Then there's Cheryl, Rhode Island, and then there's New York, California, Hawaii, and Texas. And then you kind of follow that group through this pageant. There's like 2 or 3 major events, and then they all make top 10, narrow down to top 5, and then top 2. It's fun.
Yeah, it was a big time. But yeah, the atomic makeup of this movie is really strong. They nailed it.
It's kind of incredible. It's a tight ass script. You could tell,
but it's a long movie. It's such a long movie.
It's a long movie. I'm sure you guys kind of split it over a few different nights.
Just 2
nights. You can tell there's some leaps that they have to take to like get the story going, because it's like, if you sit down and think about it, like, why do they need an agent in the actual pageant? Like, just have people there, or just like tell them to cancel it.
Yeah, like, that was my one. Yeah, make call an injunction, like do something. But like that was my main thing. It was just like, well, we need somebody from the agency in there so they can and make sure that they make the top 10, so she can have access to all the stuff. And she never like got any perks. There was no like, all right, top 10 only back here.
If you're a screenwriter, you're maybe like, okay, audience, take my hand and just kind of trust me on this one. Like, we're gonna have a fun time. Don't dig into it too hard.
Yeah, we're getting Aladdin on the magic carpet. Do you trust me? And we're just like, dude, fuck yeah, of course we do. Let's go. Let's fucking do this.
Who wrote this movie? I'm gonna look them up real quick. Okay, it's written by a few people.
See, too many cooks. Should have just been one person. Sandy B, give her the pen.
Mark Lawrence, who's known for numerous collaborations with Sandra Bullock and Hugh Grant. So he's kind of in that like romantic comedy space, even though this is like romantic comedy adjacent.
Yeah.
It's kind of like tinged by the romance at the very end, but this is very much more like a broad slapsticky comedy in a way,
but it
and
works.
with action elements. Yeah.
It works. Yeah, I have some stuff I want to talk about and pick apart. Namely, help me remember the the antagonist like terrorist plot, and
Uh-huh.
then
Uh-huh.
the romantic uh, implications of it. We'll
Let
circle back
me
to those.
let me make you do the plot description, and then we'll get right into it.
First, let's do the
So,
trailer. Let's do the trailer.
oh my gosh, the trailer!
Oh my
I
gosh.
lose myself.
Let's
Eminem.
don't lose yourself in the music. You can lose yourself in this music though.
Okay.
You better own it. Wow.
I was really, really counting on you to just take that song and run with it. Such an earworm of a song, and now that you've seen the movie, I can finally start to like send you all the TikToks and Instagrams of people like
Yes.
recreating the dance.
Oh God, yeah. Hit me with it.
That. Shout out to Jonathan for 3D printing my little
Oh my
Statue of Liberty hat.
Uh,
I'm sorry listeners can't see it, but I'm precariously balancing it on my head right now.
You
It is
you look regal in it.
I
You
feel like
look
I
like
could
a champion.
I could do the whole dance that they do in the
Flawlessly.
finale.
Yeah. And by the way, like Sandy B as
Mhm.
uh uh, uh Felicia Freebush.
Gracie Lou Freebush.
Gracie Lou Freebush. I like Felicia Freebush. Like is nailing the steps at the end. She's doing it.
I love it so much that like when they I mean she's such a klutz going into the movie. She doesn't really fit in. She's fish out of water in this beauty pageant because she's, you know, an FBI undercover. I love the implication in the final like contest that they have when they all do the dance together, that behind the scenes of the past few days she has been practicing the dance.
Oh yeah.
Because they all do it flawlessly.
Flawless.
There's so many fun moments like that in this movie where you can kind of see how even though she's resisting, she is kind of slipping into like this world where she's like, I kind of like this, I kind of
I
like
could
these
do
girls,
this.
I'm kind of feeling this in a way, like
Yeah,
even when
dude.
she's doing the dance or doing the swimsuit competition and she can't stop laughing.
Yeah. But yeah, because she kind of just like fully gave over to it, and you know she mentions it like in her last kind of a thing of just like it's been like a liberating experience for her, and like I think
Mhm.
there's some good meat to that aspect of it, because that takes guts to kind of do that,
Mhm.
you know, to kind of put yourself on display, not only you know in skimpy swimwear, but you know to like just be on display, period, and kind of present yourself to a crowd of people. Um, but it is reminiscent of, um, you know, a RuPaul's Drag Race season. There is typically a challenge where there's a girl group challenge where they
Mhm.
need to like learn choreography together, and some of them are like struggling to do it, and it's like, oh man, I got to practice this. Hope I'm gonna make it to the performance and not fuck it up, like RuPaul says. And it was a lot of fun to see that from that perspective. But
God,
yeah,
we're gonna have to dedicate 6 months one of these days just to like Joe finally watches RuPaul.
yeah,
um
dude, yeah,
and then
we'll fucking do it.
I don't know where to jump in. I don't understand it. It's too many colors.
Darling, listen, I'm gonna take care of you. We'll
Take
figure
my
this out.
hand.
Fuck, take my hand and let's go on this carpet. Don't ask any questions. Let's get on. All right, yeah, let's jump into this plot description.
Okay.
Okay, kind of.
I got 1 minute on the clock. Give me the plot of the 2000 movie Miss Congeniality that we are covering today on this podcast. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, 1 minute. Here we go.
Miss, you gonna start Press start.
Hang on.
Fucking hang on.
Click the wrong one. I was on timers instead of stopwatch because I'm stupid. Okay, 1 minute. Here we go.
Miss Congeniality stars Sandra Bullock, and she's an FBI agent. She's kind of not super effeminate, and she kind of takes her job really seriously. There's like a terrorist kind of thing happening, and I think it's like maybe targeting the Miss United States pageant, which is fucking hilarious. That's a great name. So they're like, hey, we got to get one of our field agents in there, and you're under 35, and you can pass as a beauty queen. So they get her in there,
36.
and she's like a shoe in for the top 10. So she's like trying to make it in, while also like unraveling this mystery. And then like Catherine Bergen is like the bad person all along, when you think it's going to be Rhode Island because she has crazy eyes. But and then they make it to the end, and it's like a plot between this former beauty queen and her son, and she stops them, and then she goes to jail for like light domestic terrorism. The end.
Okay. You touched on some interesting points here.
Mm-hmm. I am going to have to deduct you.
I like that we ended on light domestic terrorism. Let's dissect some stuff. So first and foremost, fish out of water comedy, right? You got Sandy B. She's working for the FBI.
She is working it.
Going back to the very beginning, this movie starts off with her as a little girl on the playground, and you immediately get the sense like she does not fit in. She's too physical. She's too willing to like get into a fight with folks, even though she does want to be friends with the boys.
Oh man,
like they don't want to be friends with her, right?
Yeah.
And so you get that aspect. You see how it kind of like grows with her into adulthood. She's kind of a loner. She's funny. She's like a klutz. She's got a sense of humor, and people like her, but she's kind of fucking up at her job. And so she takes the Miss United States terrorist job as kind of like a redemption thing, because she goes on a mission and it fucks up, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where you get the makeover aspect. That's where you get Michael Caine coming in as like the beauty pageant.
Oh yeah, I missed that part. Like,
it's such an early 2000s moment that they can't say he's gay, but every scene has some sort of indicator that he is very gay. Which
it's all in the buttocks. Don't I look pretty? Gliding.
We should be so lucky to have gay Michael Caine on our screens.
Yes.
And just like, what a casting choice. Like, if you have this movie on paper in front of you, do you see Michael Caine in that role? And then you watch it and it's like, who else could possibly do this? This is kind of like my first Caine touch point, even though he's like a Oscar winner by 20 years at this point.
Absolutely. Yeah. If not more than that. Like, he is a top tier, S tier actor, capital A actor at this point. But yeah, like, what a choice. Like, you needed someone highly regal who commands the screen and can be believable. It's got to be British, but like a little bit older, a little battle tested, and then like you need the Michael Caine voice to just really sell it.
I love the scene when they first meet up with him and she like looks like shit, and they're at a restaurant and he stands up thinking that the people in front of them are her and her partner, and then they walk past him and then they show up and she's like, hello, and he's like, oh my god. Her hair.
It's so frizzy. The frizziest thing you've ever seen. It's dynamite.
So you have Benjamin Bratt as her partner / like team lead / like they're kids on the playground. They're pulling each other's hair. He maybe kind of likes her. She maybe kind of likes him, but they would never admit it because they're both about the job, and like they're not about feelings or anything. And then makeover sequence to prepare her for this beauty pageant. She gets hot, even though she had a lot of inner beauty all the time. And then at that point, once she gets into the pageant, then you bring in Candice Bergen, you bring in William Shatner, who are kind of the co-hosts of the pageant. Candice obviously has like Ice Queen vibes about her. You immediately begin to suspect, rightfully so. And then that comes with this like coterie of the other 49 women competing for Miss United States from each of the states. And I just really like how you obviously have Cheryl, Rhode Island, who becomes kind of her best friend throughout this, and spoiler alert, eventually wins the whole thing. She's this like awkward girl from the smallest state in America.
Right.
But then also within their friend group, I love the little like side plot moments that you get throughout the movie, especially between like Miss New York and Hawaii, how they hate each other so much, but then you kind of secretly see them hanging out, and like they become kind of buds towards the end, even though they're insulting each other all the time. And then there's so many little moments. There's so many like little bits of humor that they find with the contestants throughout the movie, because you have the initial talent show, you have the swimsuit competition, and then you have the final everything, like the final competition, right, where they announce the winner. And there's a moment in the finale when like they're announcing like the top 5 or whatever, where they mention Cheryl, Rhode Island, is a science major who specializes in nuclear fission.
Yeah, I remember hearing that, and I was like, where has like that
throwaway
been?
Lie.
Where was that the whole time? It's so funny. That's a good one.
It's so funny. The one thing I've been thinking of as kind of like a comparison to movies that we've covered in the past is Best in Show. So you get like these, the movie basically revolves around switching between scenes of these like insane characters all competing in this insane competition, and the different personalities at play there, and the different like dynamics between them. And then you have like the commentators and judges and like presenters being an entirely different circle. And so the Fred Willard of Best in Show is definitely like the Shatner. Again, like another genius moment of casting is putting William Shatner as essentially like the Ryan Seacrest of this movie.
It's kind of the MC.
And then it becomes about how like he and Candice Bergen are getting so old that they're getting essentially like pushed out by the new generation, and Candice takes it in kind of a terrorist direction. Understandably so, for sure. Like anytime you have to have a custom like drawer built into your mastermind desk to hold the one thing, the MacGuffin essentially of the movie, like you've got problems, man. You gotta learn to let go. Crown.
Yeah, it was so silly. Like, wasn't that had to have been like an inside job, or like hush hush paid under the table of like, hey, can you like install this really plush drawer insert for my prized tiara that I'm later going to put a bomb in?
We talked about how there's certain aspects of this movie that are like definitely embedded in like late 90s, early 2000s humor. There's like a bulimia joke at one point. But I do like how when it comes to like the idea of beauty pageants in general, there's a certain level of like honesty in the characters of how, you know, at first the Candice Bergen character is trying to be all regal about it and like call it like a scholarship program. And then at the end of the movie, she's like, fuck this. It's like a beauty pageant. Yeah, you know? And as Candice Bergen kind of falls apart, you can see the Sandra Bullock character, Gracie, kind of like gaining more and more respect for these beauty pageant folks, just because like she is an outsider coming into it for the first time, whereas Candice Bergen has been in it her whole life, and she's essentially gone crazy over the fact that she's getting like kicked out of it. And so it's an interesting take on it, where like this world is presented as like super like vapid and regressive and anti-feminist, and you kind of learn along with the Sandra Bullock character that it's not all that it seems.
Right. Yeah, the outside world, her familiar world back at the agency at the FBI, that is the one that's riddled with sexism and misogyny and
horrible
horrible workplace.
Shout out Ernie Hudson, Ghostbusters.
Dude, fucking Ernie Hudson. Man, I wish he was in it. He was in it more. He's only
He
he's
is
only
in
in a
the
handful of scenes, but
so this movie has a sequel, and he's one of the few that comes back. I think it's him. It's obviously Sandra Bullock, and then it's Shatner and Heather Burns, who plays Miss America, Rhode Island. They all come back for the sequel, and the sequel is very different. It's like queer iconic culture in a very different way, mainly because it contains Regina King doing like a drag performance of
ooh,
Tina Turner.
amazing.
So it's not necessarily about a beauty pageant at all. It's more about how the character of Gracie has like become the vapid thing that she used to
Oh
despise, and how
no.
it's more about like her journey to find a balance there and like get back to her roots as like an actual FBI agent and get
When
taken
did that come
seriously
out?
again.
I didn't even know there
That
was a
was like a
sequel.
few years. That was a few years after this. So it was like
Oh damn.
2004, 2005.
Oh
It did
wow.
not receive good reviews, but it
Mm.
was weirdly like equally a big movie for us growing up as this one, just because like I think like we had Miss Congeniality on repeat. Like you gotta watch the
You gotta
sequel,
watch the second one.
even
Well,
though
I'm
it's definitely missing like that aura that we're talking about of like you got
it's the
Caine, you
magic.
got Benjamin Bratt's not in it, Michael Caine's not
Mm,
in it, Candice Bergen's not in it. So you're maybe like you don't have as much like oomph there in the
yeah.
cast, even though
Yeah.
it definitely has fun points.
Oh, well, I'm adding it to our sequel series that we're going to be doing. Honestly, I want to do that for like the next year. Is just doing
Is any
follow-ups.
is anything else on our follow-up sequel series? Or are you creating this as we go?
Joe, I've been creating this as we go, and there's so many. There's so
I
many
don't
that we
write
can do.
down shit.
Well, see, Joe, that's the difference between you and I. I'm the FBI agent who takes my job a little too seriously, and you're the grabby, handsy one, just fucking off, having a good time.
You're saying I'm
Um,
the hot Benjamin Bratt one.
yes.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Like there's so many that we could do. Scream 2, Super Troopers 2, Gremlins 2, A Christmas Story, Terminator 3, Chicken Run 2, Speed 2, TMNT 2, The Exorcist 2, Wayne's World 2,
I
Gladiator
think
2.
oh god, we're gonna have to see Gladiator 2 in theaters. Justin, can you
I
believe?
know. I know.
I think we're going to have to stretch our rules when it comes to sequels around like what if neither of us has seen it? And we've talked in the past about maybe like expanding, dipping a toe in that area, like what happens if we're both the uncultured person in the episode? Like,
Yeah.
shall we venture into that darkness?
We will jump
Um,
in together hand in hand and explore it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. We will.
We will. We're gonna do that. But yeah, that's added to the list. I had no idea there was a lackluster sequel. Let's toss it
Miss
in the list.
Congeniality 2, Armed and Fabulous.
That's what it's called. I love that.
Yeah.
Armed
Yeah.
and Fabulous. Okay, I can see the queer culture kind of permeating into that.
Oh, it's a fun movie. There's a moment where she's chasing down a Dolly Parton impersonator who turns out to be actual Dolly Parton, and she tackles her to the ground. It's very much like a Vegas movie, if that makes any sense at all.
Mhm.
And it's an entirely different energy than this movie. But it has fun moments. Although I can understand that it wasn't like as critically well received as this one.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I can't wait to dig into that one.
Ooh.
All right, Joe, where to next? Where we headed now?
Well, tell me about so you didn't really have
Mhm.
much impact with this movie when it first came out. What are your Sandra Bullock touch points? Because the girl's got range. I mean, we've talked about her comedic roles, we've talked about her action roles. She's obviously got some pretty deep dramatic roles, sci-fi roles as well. Love her
Yeah.
in Gravity.
Mm.
Where what do you think when you think of Sandra Bullock?
Obviously, it's the one. It's the one movie that we covered, which was Speed, which was
Okay.
my pick. That was my introduction to her, and like when I think and I picture Sandra Bullock in my brain, it's not modern day. It's not early 2000s. It's 1994. Sandy B from Speed. Um, But yeah, like I have seen, Gravity and The Proposal. I thought was hilarious as well.
Proposal,
Yeah,
huge comeback for her.
big comeback. Yeah. But yeah, she's got a good stacked filmography.
She's one of my favorites. I mean, we talk about like kind of the MVPs of uncultured universe. I think we've definitely talked about someone like John Leguizamo, who has
Mhm.
popped up in like a wide amount of our movies and is always like the one we're talking about.
Right.
Sandra Bullock, I would put into that mix. Like she has such a presence on screen that you are just drawn to her, and you can't really ever. I don't know if this makes sense. Like you can't really ever imagine her as like a side character, except
Mm.
in maybe an early movie like Speed, where even that is more like a two-hander, two or three-hander, and
Oh,
she's one of the hands in that.
dude, 100% two-hander for sure. Like she was a side character in that, but she was a breakout. That was a breakout for
Mm-hmm.
her. Um shit, where was I going with this? Oh, I think she was kind of the start of like that every woman, like the girl next door kind of vibe, a little bit of the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Um, kind of the big screens version of like Jennifer Aniston, right?
Ooh,
You know what I mean? Of like got good funny chops, a really good actor, kind of commands the screen whenever they're on.
like
Um,
physically funny too.
yeah,
Yeah,
very
like
physically funny too. And
we're we're rewatching Friends right now, or I'm watching it for the first time, really, like all the way
ooh,
through. Not
yeah.
like I know of Friends, obviously, but like this is the first time I've ever like really watched it, and it's so funny how like physically comedic all of them are. I think it's
Mhm.
such a dated show, and I hate some of the episodes, but I will
Fair.
burst out laughing every now and then if Rachel's like running across the room and doing a leap across the couch on top of Ross.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Like they were throwing themselves around that set.
Dude, they were all, just having a good time. They were all like in their 20s, just having a great time.
Insane.
Um,
I can't think about how young they are in that show.
no, you can't because it'll depress you. But I think, it's been kind of hard to capture that Sandy B magic from the 2000s on with any other of the new actors. I think
Mhm.
someone that came close was probably like Rachel McAdams.
Ooh,
Um,
yeah.
she kind of went a little bit in that comedic route. Um, she definitely had that down home, um, person you feel like you went to school with. She grew up down the street from you, kind of a thing. But
Like
I don't
literally Family Stone vibes. Yeah.
100%. Even though she kind of was a shit in that movie, she was kind
I
of
love her in
evil.
Family Stone. I will take no slander there.
I mean, it's not a slander. It's a whatever, whatever, Joe. But I
We're
think
gonna have to have one episode that comes up that's just like us fully being honest and talking shit about all the things that we've
everything,
watched in this podcast.
yeah. It's like, Joe, you are a worse person for liking this movie. Or I think differently of you because you did not enjoy this movie, and I question our friendship.
I
Uh,
I have some thoughts for how we can bring that together. It'll be exciting.
that's amazing. But yeah, like Sandy B is a powerful synonymous with like interesting acting choices.
Hmm.
You don't outwardly think of her as like a action star, dramatic star, comedy. She's a mixture of all of them, and she
Hmm.
does them all really, really well.
She's every woman. I yeah,
Mm.
I see her as like a precursor to Anne Hathaway too in that way.
Ooh, yeah,
You have like early roles like Anne Hathaway in Princess Bride, not Princess Bride, God,
Princess
Princess
Diaries.
Diaries, and Devil Wears Prada, where she is leaning into that like rom-commy, but more on the calm side of things. And then Anne Hathaway obviously delves into more dramatic roles in her. We'll call it middle career.
Yeah,
I'm not. It
yeah,
feels weird just to call it later career.
yeah.
And then Sandra Bullock is kind of a precursor in that way in terms of having that range from what I've seen. So you have my mainstays for her in like early 2000s comedy would be like Miss Congeniality, Miss Congeniality 2, 2 Weeks Notice, if you've ever seen that.
I haven't.
Talking about Hugh Grant. classic. Such a good, like, small movie, essentially about someone trying to quit their job. That
Oh,
is
love
like
it.
so funny at certain points. It's also a repairing of Sandra Bullock and Heather Burns, which is the Cheryl Miss Rhode Island
Fun,
in this. They're a
fun.
fun little pairing there. And then, so you have like early 2000s Sandra Bullock, and then I think of it as like a range between that, getting into Blindside. She wins the Oscar for Blindside, and then
Yeah.
something like Gravity,
Mm.
where she's doing something so completely different. Where there's probably comedic moments in Gravity of her just like as a performer that you could find, but there's a physicality there, but it's much more on like the science fiction dramatic action side of things, and
Yeah.
she does that so well too. I mean, she gets the Oscar nom there.
I did really like that movie, and it elevated the stakes, I think, because of her every woman vibe.
Mm-hmm.
She's not like and this isn't like any slander or anything to like Zoe Saldana or anything like that. But like you see someone like that in a sci-fi movie, you're like, oh, this person is this kind of character. They live this kind of stuff all the time.
Person is not human, and that's why they're always painted in different colors. Yeah,
Or
we love
like
Zoe Saldana.
Zoe Saldana fucking rules. But like, some of those kinds of actors, that kind of stuff, who are known for more of their actiony kind of stuff. Whereas, like you said, like for Sandy B, for something like with Gravity, it's so outside of her typical norm. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
please don't let something bad happen to my girl here.
I mean,
Um,
even in Gravity, she is kind of playing this like, I don't know if introverted is the right word for like an astronaut, but she's not playing this super showy role, but she's playing someone who is just trying to do their job, and then this huge thing is thrust upon them, and they have like a call to heroism in a way, a call
yeah,
to like survival.
yeah,
And so it's interesting in her career how she wins the Oscar for Blindside, which is like such a huge step away from all of that in my opinion, and like
hmm,
her like ramping the confidence level and like the smartiness level up to 1,000
yeah.
in that movie. Equally fun. I wonder. I truly wonder, like with a career like hers, like what the hair color does to the effect in the movie. Because like in Blindside, she's obviously like
Blonde,
blonde,
yeah.
but then you talk about her as like a rom com lead in the early 2000s. Like was she leading the way for brunettes everywhere? You know.
I think so. I think there was a resurgence of like, get out of here, blondes have more fun. Like brunettes have the power. Like, I don't know, maybe. That coupled
Yeah.
that with the Jennifer Aniston kind of uprising in the 90s, it makes sense.
I love the Jennifer Aniston comparison there. Yeah, it makes such sense.
Absolutely.
Um, I have a couple more thoughts. I just kind of want to run through my notes, but first, what are we drinking here, Justin? Give me a little
Oh my
taste.
God. I'm so excited for this. I drank it all because it was so delicious and because it was melting. I made a milkshake because I loved the scene from the bar. Like after she has the hard day and she's like, "Hey, barkeep, I'm going for a full pint today." And he's like, "Oh, you sure? It's a little early." And it's a pint of ice cream, and you're like, "That's gonna hurt your stomach." I wouldn't do that if I were you, but that's fine. Um,
Yeah.
so I made a boozy milkshake, and I'm calling it "Let's Get Chip Faced." So it was cookies and cream, ice cream, milk, bourbon, and chocolate chips, and
Oh
it was
my
delicious.
god! Did you like blend all that together? How do you do that,
That's how you do it. Yeah, you throw that all in a blender and you zip it and you toss it in. You put some whipped cream on top, and you just have a good time.
Justin? That sounds incredible. Your poor little tummy.
I know I've ruined my supper.
You're gonna be like shitting bricks later.
Maybe
Um, we're old.
we're getting old.
Um, okay.
What do you got? That thing was pretty.
This little reddish orange contraption, you may
She's gorgeous.
recognize the color because I have brought Aperol to the table one or two
Once
times
again.
before. Yes, noticing a trend. I'm calling this a perfect date, which we know to be April 25th. And so this is 4 parts Aperol, 2 parts gin, 5 parts club soda. For those keeping track at home, that is 425. April 25th.
Oh, barf. That's so cute.
All right. Are we ready
love it.
for like my personal story related to this movie?
Please hit me with it.
I believe I promised, I preluded this in the previous episode. So here at Uncultured Universe, we really like to like have two different sides of a spectrum. So you have like a dumb, uncultured idiot like Justin who hasn't seen Miss Congeniality, and then you have someone like me who is here to be your Virgil, act as your guide through this new movie, but also give my own take around like where does this fit in my lexicon, where in my history.
Yeah.
So I told you about how this is like a movie that I knew about growing up. It was just it was on the shelf. It was constantly in rotation, right?
Yeah.
Fast forward about 20 years. I am on the dating apps in a little city called Atlanta, Georgia. Spoiler alert, we're still here right now.
You're swiping.
Were you ever on the dating apps? Was that kind of like before or after, in between times?
I missed the boat, and I'm so glad I did.
Good for you. Good for you.
Sounds so stressful.
I was on this dating app called Coffee Meets Bagel, where I guess it was like the kids these days are on Hinge. So they would like, it's more exclusive in like the people it matches you to. It's not like Tinder where you're constantly just swiping and treating people like cattle.
Sometimes.
And so you fill out a profile where it asks you to like answer questions or like complete sentences. And then it gives you a few matches every day or every week or whatever. All this comes down to the way that I snagged my current partner of going on 7 years at this point. One of the what do you call it? Like they give you like a fill in the blank to answer as like a prompt. One of the prompts on your profile was like, I like it when my date is blank. You know where I'm going with this.
Oh yeah.
I put April 25th because I was like putting a very specific lure on that hook and casting it into the love pond. And I was like, who's going to get this Miss Congeniality reference? One person did.
Oh, that's adorable.
So he immediately responded with yada yada, nice congeniality, Miss Congeniality reference. And then I was like, what? I don't know what you're talking about. No, I'm kidding.
Of course you did. You're just like, thank God.
It was a connection right off the bat, and that I will always be proud of.
That's amazing.
So, I would say it's the most iconic part of this movie is for the listeners at home who maybe haven't seen Miss Congeniality, what we're talking about is there's like an interview portion of the swimsuit competition that they do where William Shatner, as the host, asks Heather Burns as Miss Rhode Island, describe your perfect date. And then she pauses and is like this super like blonde, pretty young lady. And she's like, I would have to say April 25th because it's not too hot and not too cold. All you need is a light jacket. And then it's like crickets in the theater.
It's such a out of pocket answer, but it's iconic.
It's so funny. Looking at the little IMDb trivia page, the first thing on the list is Cheryl's answer to the question, what is your idea of a perfect date, was actually used as an answer in a real life beauty pageant.
Oh, I love that. Of course it was. Of course it was. That's great.
Fantastic.
Love these girls, you know? They're trying their hardest.
We all have a good time here. Yes, I love the connection to this movie. What are some additional notes that I have? We love a makeover movie. I love the part in the beginning when she is in her apartment and she keeps like tripping over her bed, and you can tell it's like a normal thing that she does every day because it's so commonplace for her. The part where she goes on a mission and the sirens are blaring and you think she's about to arrest someone, but really she's going to get Starbucks for the whole office.
Oof, bad move. Not a good look, Sandy.
Benjamin Bratt being hot in this movie. Benjamin Bratt's arms. The Aloha joke where she asks like Do you say aloha for hello and goodbye? How do you hang up the phone with someone? Um, this is Texas. Everybody has a gun. My florist has a gun.
That was a good one too. Oh man.
What is the one thing our society needs, Ms. Freebush? That would be harsher punishment for parole violators, Stan. That is an example of something that I could text someone at any time of day, depending on how I'm feeling.
And then they would text back, and also world peace.
I just want to let all the lesbians out there know if I can make it to the top 10, so can you.
What like an edit to throw in. They're like, you got to throw that in there, and that was a good choice.
And then ending on, obviously, like the assassination attempt. Spoiler alert, the crown is set up to be a bomb, almost kills Cheryl. Gracie saves her, and then Shatner is just singing the Miss United States song the entire time.
He's trying his hardest. He's trying to keep it together while literal chaos is going on the stage. And domestic terrorism is running rampant. So silly. I have several notes here. I love a good "I want your badge and your gun" moment.
You're
Like,
a loose cannon.
Yeah. God damn it, Freebush. Give me your badge and your gun. You can stay behind.
But you're going to get us all killed.
Yeah. You're staying behind as a civilian. I love that shit. Like the amount of unprofessionalism from the dudes at the FBI just running rampant. Like, this is a serious case. Yes.
Incredible.
Like, there's a terrorist on the loose, and they're just making like tit jokes and swimsuit, like ogling it at people. And it's just like, this is ridiculous.
Again, we can't really dig into the premise of this movie without it completely falling apart. You really just have to be along for the ride for the first 30 minutes or so.
Yeah. To go along with the "I want your badge and gun" iconic movement, or like just scene, I also love like when the good guy gets the bad guy into the cop car and they slam the door and they give the top of the cop car a good tap to let the driver know.
Hand on the shoulder.
That put them in, but then slam the door and tap the car to say like, "All right, driver, you're good to go." Like, yep, you're good to go. They're in.
Fantastic final words to Candice Bergen in this movie.
Yeah, so good. And then Michael Caine is just, utterly electric. He is probably my favorite part of the movie.
I mean, understandably so.
Just exasperated. Michael Caine can't take anymore. Master Wayne. Can't believe it. I want to do a supercut of him as Alfred talking to Sandy B in this movie, and she's like Batman. Like, I would love that. That'd be cool.
I mean, there's nothing saying that they aren't secretly like the same character across universes, and if we want to believe that, it's not against the law.
Yeah, according to multiverse theory, there is a Batman out there who has Sandra Bullock as this character. So, I love it.
I think that's great. Justin, you ready for a little game?
Oh, we're gonna play a game. I can't wait. You said you were gonna ruin me with this game, and
yeah, it'll be okay.
I'm fucking ready, dude.
I'm just gonna make you talk a lot.
There she is, the Miss Uncultured Universe, in all her splendor, and we have fun on the weekends and sometimes on Tuesdays. When it's not too late, because Miss Uncultured Universe is what she is to me.
Horrifying stuff.
Truly terrifying. The only thing that was missing was a wind-up monkey doing the symbols.
Just like one of those old commercials. Yes. All right, let's do it. Let's get into it.
Here at Uncultured Universe, we are all winners. But every year, a new Miss Uncultured Universe is crowned, chosen as the person who embodies the uncultured spirit best. Welcome to the interview portion of the Miss Uncultured Universe pageant. These questions count for 100% of your overall score.
Yes.
Please answer them honestly and to the best of your ability. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Oh, fantastic. Doesn't she look gorgeous? Okay.
Thank you.
First question. Miss Jackson, it says here that you were born on a decrepit English chicken farm that may have been a metaphor for World War II prisoner of war camp. Tell us a little bit more about how that influenced your decision to pursue beauty pageants.
Thank you for that question. Well, I like to think of my time on the farm growing up where I would only make friends with the chickens because they understood me. The cows and the goats were too mean. And they taught me what it is to be a family. And I loved just the way that the male chickens, you can call them roosters if you want to, but I like to call them cocks. They would strut up and down the farm, and I thought to myself, I can do that too. And that brought me to Miss Uncultured Universe pageant.
Oh, thank you. Isn't she just stunning? Okay, number 2, Miss Jackson. There are those who think that, quote, gremlins have no place in modern society due to their tendency towards mayhem. If you were to win the title of Miss Uncultured Universe, how would you continue to advocate for the right of, quote, gremlins worldwide?
I think America is everybody's America, and gremlins deserve America as much as you or I. And therefore, it is my official stance that I am pro gremlin. Thank you.
Fantastic. Wonderful. Question number 3. Miss Jackson, I'm going to give you a scenario. If you found out that your ex-girlfriend had undergone an experimental procedure to erase all memory of you from her mind, how would you respond in a way that upholds uncultured values for young boys and girls everywhere?
I would respond as such. Huh? What? Come again? That's how I would respond because I would not know what is going on. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll let the judges stew on that one. Miss Jackson, in 5 words or less, count them up, what are your thoughts on exorcism?
Let the sun shine in. Let it in.
Powerful stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 5. Another scenario for you, Miss Jackson. Say you're a bright young woman with a promising career in vineyard branding ahead of you, and you've just gotten engaged to a wealthy bachelor smoke show. His daughter comes back from summer camp and immediately seems to hate you. And not only that, but you soon learn that he has another daughter and a beautiful ex-wife that he never told you about. What, in your opinion, is a reasonable course of action for you to take in a way that is becoming of Miss Uncultured Universe?
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps. And I believe that our education, like such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere like such as, and I believe that they should hold our education over here in US America should help the US Americans or South Africans and the Iraq so we can be able to build up our future. Thank you.
You're giving us a lot to think about. Thank you, Miss Jackson.
You too. Uh-huh.
All right, we're getting close to the end here. Number 6, Miss Jackson, describe the perfect movie that you believe needs a new adaptation starring the Muppets.
To me, I would love to see Labyrinth done as a pure Muppet movie all over again because I could watch that movie just all the time, y'all.
It's a fascinating choice. Miss Jackson has taken a famously Muppet movie and just added more Muppets to it.
It needs more Muppets. Yes.
More Muppet
Have the
nest
Muppets.
units.
I would like to see the Muppets be the puppeteers of other Muppets.
Wow.
Wow.
The proletariat rising up. Okay. Okay. And finally, Miss Jackson. Everyone knows that becoming Miss Uncultured Universe does in fact give you power to control the known universe, similar to a genie or heathen god. If you succeed in winning the crown, what will be your first almighty act, and how will it reflect the values that we here at Uncultured Universe attest and hold dear?
First, I will commandeer all the powers of the world and coalesce them into one, unto which I hold power over all. None
Miss
shall be
Jackson,
spared.
why are your eyes turning black right
And then we would have world peace. The end.
Excellent. Okay. You'll get your scores in the mail in 2 to 6 business days. Thank you, Miss Jackson.
Is that how beauty pageants work? All right.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the crowning at the end of beauty pageants is mostly an educated guess, and then they
Yeah.
get their numeric scores later.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations, Justin. Among your many, many titles, you can now put potential Miss Uncultured Universe.
It's on my resume
there.
already. It's on my resume
Yeah.
already.
Already updating it.
Mm-hmm. As we speak.
Oh, Justin, once again, I'm very glad when we get to cross off one of my little Inside Out Head Island movies.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of those for me. Final thoughts on Miss Congeniality.
Miss Congeniality was a great time. Sandy B, Benjamin Bratt, Michael Caine, Candice Bergen, everybody firing on all cylinders. William Shatner. It is a good time. It is, not too dated, even though it is 24 years ago, kind of a thing. It's still great. It's Sandy B just like boxing at her, heavyweight level, just absolutely crushing. It's a good time. It's very funny. It's endearing. It's pretty sweet. Even though it's undercut sometimes by heavy misogyny and sexism. But you just got to look past that because the 2000s were weird, man. But I had a good time. It was a good time in the Jackson house.
2020 hindsight.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm glad. All right. Tell our listeners a little bit about where we're headed next.
We are going into sports mode. You look at us and you think those are two athletes right there who just commandeer court and field and decimate everyone else. So we're going to be talking about some just iconic sports films that we love and that are I don't know if they're wildly different from each other. They each have their own kind of merits. One definitely fits me, and the other one definitely fits Joe. So,
I would
depending
say
on what you pick.
They're pretty different from each other. I am very interested in watching yours for the first time to get a taste of it. But the one that I have picked, I think I'm going to land on the one that I originally texted you, not the second one from today. I'll text you.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a secret.
Yeah, but they are different sports. They are different sports movies altogether. So the first one that we're going to do is my pick, and it is Varsity Blues from like 2001, I think. Or no, maybe it was like 99, I think. It was just before I went to high school, and it got me so excited at the idea of wanting to play high school football, which I did not. So that tells you something about me. But it's a 90s iconic movie, which is I'm a 90s kid, so like it fills in all those um those dots on my fill in the blank chart, and it'll be a good time. And yeah, that's what we're gonna do next. We're gonna do sports in August.
I'm really excited to bring my Friday Night Lights and Remember the Titans repertoire to this conversation.
Yeah, we'll talk all the football movies because I didn't see those, but I did see this one. So it'll be great. But yeah, catch us on all the socials at Uncultured Universe on Instagram and wherever else you get your podcasts, TikTok, of course. And we'll catch you guys later.
Bye.
Stay beautiful.
World peace.
World peace.